Hey guys, it's time for the final top 10 list for a specific brand for 2018. You can probably imagine which one it was going to be anyway, but Mythic Legions has to get its due. Obviously, I have been talking almost nonstop about the line. Just that's how it goes when you get 43 figures all on the same day, and then of course it just triggers me to go back and get things that I didn't already have. So I've gotten tons of Mythic Legions this year, so I figured I would give them their due and we would take a look at my top 10 favorite figures from this year. So that includes Mythic Legions Colosseum, which shipped earlier in the year, and then of course Advent of Decay, which shipped in October. So we've got about 50-ish figures to pull from. Obviously I've gotten other figures this year. They aren't going to count, like the Demon Brothers, for example. They would definitely be on the list, but they're old. They don't count because they weren't released in 2018. So I think I've got a pretty solid list here. So, you know, we're just going to do it, and we're going to jump right in. Number 10 is a figure that I think I ranted and raved about quite a bit during his review, even though he did have a very, very small QC issue with one of his accessories. But number 10 for me is Balaam. This figure just really does it for me. He is one of the more standard kind of figures in the line. He has, you know, a lot of old parts reusage, but he also has an amazing paint job. Not to mention the fact that he has a jaguar head and tail, so he definitely stands out among pretty much every other figure just in that regard. On top of that, he comes with an extra head, so you can make him into a more standard kind of knight that just has a really snazzy paint job. This figure just does it for me. He definitely kind of blends in with a lot of figures in terms of sculpt, but it's all about those colors for me, and it's another instance of this figure looks different, but also has all of the same sculpt and detail and paintwork that you want out of this line. Number 9 takes us to Mythic Legions Colosseum, one of 2 Colosseum figures on this list, and that would be Keltus. I think this figure is probably one of the few non-Advent of Decay figures that I showed throughout a ton of Advent of Decay reviews, just because I love this guy so much. He's a skeleton, which I've said time and again is my overall favorite kind of race, faction, whatever you want to call it, within Mythic Legions. And he's a blue skeleton, and he's an homage to Skeletor. He comes with 1,000,001 parts to change him up a million different ways, and he just looks so cool. There's really nothing to complain about with this figure, outside of the fact that I wish I had more to make all the different versions of him, but I've only got the one. Number 8 takes us to my favorite faction for Advent of Decay specifically, and that of course is the Goblins. I know I've said that a number of times at this point, but the Goblins are just amazing. I'm glad the Horseman went down that road. And my number 8 pick might be one that people don't consider to be their favorite. I haven't heard a lot of fanfare around this one, but number 8 for me is Gonks. There's something about the paint job on this guy, the beefier, heavier body that they used from kind of like a dwarf to make him look like a big, bruiser, nasty goblin with that crazy head sculpt that he has with the big mouthpiece, and then he has a flail, which on top of everything, the weapon just suits him so perfectly. So this is one that I jumped on early. He was one of my original Advent of Decay reviews, and I've just been kind of smitten with him ever since I first got him out. I love everything about this little green dude. Number 7 was a bit of a surprise in terms of how much I really like this figure, and honestly he seems like he kind of fits in the Colosseum line more than Advent of Decay. But number 7 for me is Calavius. So this figure just kind of won me over in every detail. I love the bare-chested upper torso. He has an amazing Murmillo gladiator style helmet as his kind of standard head, which just looks phenomenal. The Horseman went to town on the sculpt and paint for this thing. He comes with an extra head sculpt that is my long-standing favorite head sculpt in the entire line, and he just has a smattering of awesome accessories, not to mention the fact that his kind of quintessential accessory is a humongous trident, which he just looks so menacing using. So this guy was really kind of a surprise for me. I didn't think when I first got him out of the package I was going to love him as much as I do, but he really, really does it for me. He's definitely a must-have in this line. Number 6 is the first female on the list, and she is one of 2. I was kind of surprised I didn't have more females, but there's a lot of diversity in Mythic Legions. So number 6 is Delfina of Aetheros. This figure absolutely blew my mind when I got her out. The Templar Knight thing doesn't really blow me away in a general sense, but this figure overall just kind of knocked it out of the park. paint is spectacular, the sculpt is phenomenal. She has an extra head sculpt, which is the one I primarily use, which is her unhelmeted head, which I think is just absolutely gorgeous. It is my preferred version for this figure. She comes with a ton of standard knight style accessories. You can load her up. She has the crossbow, she's got the sword, just a whole 9 yards on this figure. Everything is fantastic on this one. She's kind of one of the hallmark figures in the line as far as females go for me. Number 5 is the first figure that I reviewed in Advent of Decay. The figure that I wanted the most just because I was really drawn to his weird sculpt, and that's going to be Thistle Thorn. This little guy just does it for me on a number of levels. The paint scheme on him, the different colors, the browns and the greens, the kind of autumnal look he has. He of course has the very chipmunk-esque head sculpt, which is really what draws me to this figure, even though he is a woodland goblin. Now, he's always going to be my little chipmunk warrior figure. He comes with a fantastic array of accessories, and on top of all the stuff that he has specific for himself, he comes with a sword horseman, which is the must-have weapon in this particular wave. You really can't go wrong with this guy. He's just weird and different, but he has all of that amazing horseman quality jam-packed into such a tiny body. Number 4 is the other female on the list, and this is the one that just kind of blew me away just from a sculpt and paint perspective, where I really like Delfina just for the overall package. This figure just blew me away with the color choices and the overall detail on her, and that is Gwendolyn, Heaven's Brand. She has like one of the best paint jobs, I think, in this particular wave. The color choices for her armor are outstanding. The sculpt detail on her is phenomenal. She has 2 head sculpts, one of which has a movable face mask. She has the same head sculpt as Delfina, just with a different paint scheme. She has spectacular weapons and all of the normal, like every other figure, horseman quality in sculpt, paint, articulation, everything is there. She is a complete package. Number 3 is a figure that, honestly, I wasn't sure was going to appear on the list to begin with, let alone so high, but the more I play around with this figure, the more I know that, yeah, he belongs up here, and he is the second of the 2 goblins that I chose for this list, and he appears to be, from what I can tell, just about everybody's favorite goblin, and that's going to be Nubnik. This little guy really blew me away. Just the overall detail, the sculpt, the paint, the design around this particular figure, the face sculpt on this guy. I love the accessory choices. I love the fact that he uses that same small kind of body that Thistle Thorn uses. So there's just a lot of kind of quintessential dark, evil goblin detail that goes into this guy. The more you play around with this one, the more you're bound to really enjoy this particular figure. He works very, very well with the Goblin Legion builder as kind of like a captain or the leader of a small group of goblins. So there's a lot you can do with this little guy, and the Horseman absolutely killed it. Number 2 on the list takes us back to Mythic Legion's Colosseum, and this is one of the few figures that I got when Colosseum originally came out. So when that came out, I knew I had to get Keltus, I knew I had to get Adamon just for the Motu aspect of things, but this guy absolutely stood out among every other figure, and that is without a doubt Gore. This guy is just a stellar figure through and through. Everything about the look and feel, the homage to Warduke from Dungeons & Dragons, anything you can think of just is phenomenal about this particular figure. The sculpt, he uses that head sculpt that I really, really love. The belt buckle on him. He has generic style weapons, but they work so well with this particular figure. He just looks like he's the guy you don't want to throw down with in the Colosseum. He looks like a complete badass, to say the least, and everything about this figure just oozes cool. He could not be on the list, and he was going to be number 1, but he just got edged out. Number 1 was a bit of a no-brainer as soon as I got this guy out of the package. Gore was far and away one of my favorite figures of 2018. He still is, but as soon as I got this guy out of the package, I knew right then and there that, yeah, we've got a new contender for the top spot for Mythic Legions. There's a really good chance this guy's going to be on my overall top 10 list. He's a skeleton, so that certainly doesn't hurt. You probably already know who that's going to be, just based on that alone. So number 1 is, without a doubt, Brother Mandibulus. So skeletons, you've won me over already. This guy has just an amazing array of sculpted detail. All the parts they chose for him are just top-notch. They made the right call on how to piece this guy together. The paint is fantastic. Articulated jaw, crazy evil-looking helmet. He's got blood and mud paint splatter on the soft goods, which are just a phenomenal choice. Everything about that works for me. He has a stellar array of brutal and gruesome looking accessories. He has got an extra head sculpt. There's just nothing for me that is wrong with this figure. I love every aspect of this particular action figure, and I think the Horseman absolutely knocked it out of the park with this guy. So there you go, guys. That is my top 10 list for Mythic Legions for 2018. I would love to know what your guys' favorite Mythic Legions figures are for the year. I'm sure I'm going to get someone asking why Juno isn't on the list. She seems to be everybody's favorite. She just isn't for me. Stellar figure, just not as good as some of the others, but I really dig everything the Horsemen are doing right now. It seems like they are just going crazy with new releases, new figure types, everything that I don't need to spend my money on but can't stop buying. So yeah, there's definitely more Mythic Legions coming. I'm not even done reviewing Advent of Decay. I'm going to keep doing that, but we had to get this list out because it's a top 10 list, and you guys definitely seem to like that kind of stuff. So I would also like to know what your top 10 or top 5 or top 3 or whatever your favorite Mythic Legions figure from this year is. You're probably going to see at least one or two of these guys on my overall top 10 list, and that's it. I'll catch you later.